Welcome to Deep Dive Daily. Today, we are cracking open the constitutional playbook for one of the most complex and vibrant democracies on Earth, India. We're going to explore the really ingenious rules that help its incredibly diverse and powerful states all work together as one single nation.
So just think about this for a second. How do you actually manage the inevitable friction between 28 states and 8 union territories, many of which have populations bigger than entire countries? I mean, it is a massive, massive challenge. And the answers, well, they're found right inside India's constitution.
All right, here's our game plan for today. We'll kick things off with the big picture, the interstate playbook. Then we'll zoom right in on Article 262, which is all about water disputes. After that, we'll look at Article 263 for national coordination. Then we'll cover the rules that make India a single market, and we'll wrap up with something called the zonal councils.
Okay, first up, let's set the stage. You know, in a federal system like India's, it's not just about how the central government gets along with the states. No, the real test, the real challenge, is making sure the states can work smoothly with each other.
And here is the absolute key. None of this was left to chance. The architects of the Constitution knew there would be disagreements, so they literally built a framework, a set of rules, to manage these relationships, making cooperation, not conflict, the default setting.
So, let's see how this playbook actually works in the real world. We'll start with one of the most emotional and contentious issues anywhere, water, right? Rivers don't follow state borders. So Article 262 was created to be the official referee for figuring out who gets what.
Now, to really get a handle on Article 262, you need to understand this one word: adjudication. Just think of it like this. It's a special kind of legal process, one that happens outside the normal court system. It's designed specifically to have a neutral expert settle these super complex water disputes.
And you know what? Article 262 is incredibly powerful. It gives Parliament two huge abilities. First, it can literally create the entire legal machinery for settling these water fights. And second, it can say, hey, this is so specialized, not even the Supreme Court can touch it. This creates a totally separate, expert-led path to get a resolution.
And believe me, this isn't just some theory. Parliament has actually used Article 262 to set up a bunch of these tribunals over the decades. You can see some of the big ones right here, for major rivers like the Narmada and the Kaveri. These tribunals have been absolutely essential in solving some of India's longest and most bitter interstate disputes.
Okay, but what about issues that aren't strict legal disputes? What about just getting everyone on the same page for policy? For that, we turn to the next tool in our playbook, Article 263. This one is all about creating a space for the states and the central government to simply talk to each other.
Now, the Interstate Council, which this article creates, is a totally different animal from a court. See, the Supreme Court makes legally binding decisions, but the Council, it can discuss anything. Legal, not legal, it doesn't matter. Its job is to give advice and make recommendations. It's a forum for dialogue, not for lawsuits.
And just look who's at the table. This is a real who's who of Indian politics. Established back in 1990, the council is chaired by the Prime Minister himself, and it includes every single chief minister. It's designed to make sure that when big national policies are on the table, everybody who matters has a voice.
All right, let's shift gears and look at the rules that really hold the nation together in our day-to-day lives. This is all about two simple but powerful ideas: making sure a legal document from one state is good everywhere, and ensuring that goods can move freely across the country.
This quote from Article 261 is the bedrock of legal unity in India. It's called the Full Faith and Credit Clause, and it's the reason why, for example, your driver's license from one state is valid in every other state. It's what stops the country from descending into legal chaos.
And this right here, this is the economic equivalent. Article 301 is such a powerful statement. Its entire goal is to tear down any imaginary walls as state borders, allowing goods and services to flow freely, creating one massive single Indian market.
Of course, this freedom isn't totally unlimited. The Constitution is smart about it, allowing for what it calls reasonable restrictions. So Parliament can step in for the public good, and states can, for instance, impose fair taxes. But the big takeaway is that free movement is the rule, and restrictions are the exception.
So for our final section, we're going to look at a slightly different layer of cooperation. This one doesn't come directly from the Constitution, but from an act of Parliament. These are the zonal councils, and they're designed to handle issues at a regional level.
Now here's the difference you got to know. The other tools we've looked at, they're hardwired right into the Constitution. But these zonal councils are statutory,
which is just a fancy way of saying they were created by a specific law, in this case, the States Reorganization Act of 1956. They were a really practical idea to group states together and encourage them to get along.
So, the country is split into 5 of these zones, each with its own council. These councils bring neighboring states to the same table to talk about shared problems. Things like border issues, economic planning, or security. It's a smart way to solve problems at a regional level before they blow up into national ones.
And the goals for these councils are pretty ambitious. They're not just about boring administrative stuff. They're aiming for emotional integration, trying to dial down that intense regionalism and making sure everyone cooperates on big development projects. They're really discussion forums designed to build a spirit of teamwork.
So, when you step back and look at the whole system together, you see it's this incredibly sophisticated, multi-layered approach. These articles, these acts, and these councils, they're like the invisible threads that weave the stunningly diverse fabric of India's states into one single working nation.
But let's be real, this playbook was written over 70 years ago. As India's economy, its politics, and even its climate keep changing, it brings up a huge question for the future. How will these foundational rules need to change to meet the challenges of the next 75 years?
Well, that is a question for another time. If you found this deep dive into India's constitutional playbook valuable and you want more explainers just like it, do us a favor and be sure to like and subscribe to the Deep Dive Daily channel. Thanks for watching.